The media would never focus on gentrification if it was Caucasian folks talking about how they didn't want colored people moving into their communities. Not only that, if it was black people or Asians saying they didn't like Mexicans or indigenous people, I'm not saying or because they're the same thing, but I'm just using two different titles that you could interchange for them. If there were reports in the media about black people and Asian people saying that they didn't want Hispanics moving into their community, how does that even make sense? How come all of a sudden now it's okay to socially say you don't want someone moving into your community, yet there's literally right now going on, there's pushes for the end of reservations. Like in Wyoming, just look up Wyoming reservations and you're going to see a lot of weird things going on in that state. How can you displace, you can be so full of yourself to displace the native people and then tell them, get out of here. You see, I'm not saying gentrification holds no weight, because it's different. When people of color like Asians and indigenous folks and blacks, when we say, we don't want white people moving into this community, that actually holds weight. There's value behind saying that. You see, the reason why a lot of these communities were formed was because the colored folks were pushed out of the white establishments, the white communities, and so they moved and they started their own little towns, their own little cities. And that's why you primarily, if you see white people amongst them, it's primarily poor white people. And that's why it holds weight, because for you to want to have a place where your tribe, your community can thrive, that's perfectly reasonable, especially if there's people actively telling you that you can't coexist with them. And so, for the colored folks to leave and then have white people come in and gentrify their community, it's perfectly reasonable for them to be malign or mad at the white people and say, no, this isn't okay, this is unacceptable, we don't want no Caucasian folks around here. That's perfectly reasonable because their community was established based on that reason right there. That reason alone. Now, for them to say that about the people whose land this is, like, you're here by a circumstance that you had no control in. But that doesn't change the fact that this land was theirs, and the very people that you claim you hate also did very similar things to them. To me, it's just weird. Have you guys ever heard of gentrification, but it was people of color speaking about other people of color entering their community? You see, I'm from Florida, and in the South, I would say a lot of people are like-minded to this sentiment. But if you're not white, you're black. And that just means that when I look at a person who's Mexican, or I look at a person who's Japanese, I have no problem saying that that's an African person right there. I know it sounds dumb, they're not from the region of Africa, but it's about how they get treated. You see, I don't have to explain racism, but when racism is primarily directed at colored people, not as if white people aren't a color, but white people, the Columbian Exchange, in modern history, in modern time, it puts the Caucasian people in a place of privilege or a place of power. I'm not saying that they are privileged or that they're in a place of power. I'm just saying that the racism that we focus on in today's day and age, it's negatively affecting the people of color. And so I was just wondering, have you ever encountered someone of color saying they didn't like other people of color? There's a lot of talk about stop Asian hate, and there's a lot of people like, for instance, Sneeko. He's a famous douchey guy. He used to be good at something, but now he's just pandering to red pill men. How do you colored folks conceptualize race? Do you align yourself with people with skin like yours? Because in truth, look at me. I don't even need to go find something black. My hair is black, but my skin is very brown. If that's not enough for you, then here. This is 100% cocoa powder. 100%. 100% cocoa powder. Let me just get some and wipe it right here. Huh. That's brown. Very brown. It almost blends in with my skin. 100% cocoa powder. Not even the good stuff. No sweetener. But you can easily see that. That's brown right there. And my hair is what's black. And so, when I look at a Mexican person, and you call them brown people, I wonder, what's the difference? Is it really just that you believe Africa to be a Negroid country? Is it because of my African descent that I'm black? Because in truth, rather than believe that I'm black, it's not like I'm trying to denounce black culture. I would just rather allow all of us of color to band together, because we're a lot better that way. Black people, Hispanic people, Asians. Now I know Asians are more pale and they look closer to white if we're going to talk about skin color. But that doesn't change the fact that white people view them in a very negative manner. I mean, let's talk about the Asian Exclusion Act. Is that not good enough? Literally banning them from coming to your country. And then a couple years later, you start killing them in mass. Literally bombing innocent people to get your point across to the world, as if they're nothing more than numbers on a census. We've all been put down by the white man in recent times. Honestly, I wish I could say this message and include white people as my brothers and say that they're just the same as me, but for now, the colored folk gotta band together. We can't be infighting and also claim we're oppressed. There can't be any infighting and also oppression, because that would imply that we have yet to band together to try and stop that oppression. Let's get it together, colored folks.